Welcome to Mom Brain, where we cover topics such as stages of ages, parenting through grief, letting adult kids be adult, pregnancy, stress management, maintaining yourself, sex life after kids, and more. Today with us, we have Heather. Heather's gonna talk to us. Heather and I are gonna discuss parenting adults, and Heather has two boys that are in the Navy, and Heather, tell us a little bit about you and kind of your general experiences as a mom regarding adult sons and adult sons who are also putting their lives on the line on a regular basis. And how do you not lose your mind?
Right? Um, yeah, that's a good question. So I just have the two boys. I homeschooled them for many years. We lived in a little town, which the recruiters said that actually helps them to survive better in the military when they live in these little towns.
Mhm.
My older son is went in first. They're very competitive. They're very close. They're like each other's best friends. And in the military, they're considered each other's person. So it's the one person in the world that they can tell everything to, military stuff. So they're very close, which makes this mama's heart very happy because,
Yeah.
when they were younger, they were not that way. It took many years and a couple of hard years to get them that way. But um, so the first one went into the military, and I have lupus and several other autoimmune diseases, and so I was sick most of their teenage years. And my older son, he did phlebotomy school during high school, and then he started studying paramedic. And it's all influenced probably because of all the hospital visits and seeing
Yeah.
how I was treated at hospitals. And so he had this heart for medicine. So he went into the Navy as a medic, and that turned into a Navy diver school. And that turned into he became the doc for SEAL Team 10 for 6 years. And that was when, I mean, it was hard with, boot camp and seeing him go through the Navy dive school and stuff. But when he became a SEAL, um, it was a whole other level of uh, breaking down in tears in the middle of the grocery store, buying bread and thinking of my son and starting to cry, those kind of things, because I
Yeah.
knew his life was out there on the line. And he was very protected by the other members of the SEAL team because he's the one that would save their lives, right? So he had the medical education. So he kept assuring me of that. And all during that time, he was going to school online to get his degree. I don't know how they did that, but
Wow.
they would he'd be over in Amman, different countries, and they would ship his biological supplies, whatever, to do dissection overseas to him so he could keep going to these schools in the midst of all of these experiences. So
Wow.
he's an amazing kid, and he's gone through Top Gun school. He got out, he graduated. Now he's back in as an officer, and now he's in Top Gun school. So once again, this mama's heart is like, can't you just you know,
Yeah.
be a cliff jumper or something less dangerous?
A little
I don't
bit
know.
less, right.
So I'm very proud of him, but it's like right now he's in a really, 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 really tough school situation, and we can't talk to him at all until he's done. And it's just hard. And then, of course, because the two boys are so close, the second one decided to join the Navy. And I'm like, ah, now what am I going to do? Now
Yeah.
both my boys are. And so I was like, well, this one is mechanically inclined. He's got like a photographic memory. He was working on diesel engines. He can see an engine and know in kind of like those exploded forms that you see in the books where every nut and bolt goes. So I was like, cool, he's going to be a mechanic.
Yeah.
guess where he is right now? He's on the Eisenhower, which is the forward boat now because the Ford left in the come on that whole conflict. So
Oh gosh.
he's the one, the commander in chief of the Navy sent us all an email saying how amazing this mechanic team is, which my son is the head of. He's the captain of the mechanics team for the E2Ds, E2Cs, because they have only two of these planes on there and they needed both of them for all these attacks this week. And he took them apart and put them back together again in like a week so that they could do all this. So they got, a kudos from high up. But once
Yeah.
again, this mama's like, oh my gosh, I have one son in this other stuff, and I have this son in the middle of the war conflict, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at least he's on the boat. He's not in one of the planes going, which is what my other son will be doing.
Uh-huh.
And they can be placed on the same boat. They can be placed in the same ship, which they're normally not allowed to do. But
Yeah.
since my older son has a son with his last name, they're going to allow both my boys to be shipped off at the same time if we go to
Oh
war.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, oh my gosh, I'm nervous for you. Like my daughter gets off work kind of late, and I used to not be able to sleep.
Hmm.
So I mean, like I can't
Yep.
imagine this.
Yep. That's the kind of mama I was.
Yeah.
The boys would be out late and, they worked hard when they were teenagers. I made them pay for their cars and their phones and insurance and learn all about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it just got to a point where I just can't cry anymore.
Yeah.
My older son once told me, he was at the airport, he said, I cannot handle you crying because I'm going through all this stuff. So I need you to be strong for me. So ever since then, now I can't even cry. I just have to, because there's nothing I could do about it. And I think I went through too many years of crying when they were younger and, when they're first in the military. And now it's their life. And I would just be crying every day.
Yeah. So I was looking up uh I was looking up ways to kind of help and support adult kids through tough and kind of dangerous situations. One thing that I keep seeing, and I've heard this not even relative to this scenario, but you have to let them learn the tough things, and you got to let them go through the struggles and things like that. And that can be kind of difficult in I want to say regular daily life where the kids aren't even off doing dangerous things, but I can't imagine just kind of, having to give up and step back and say, okay, this is just life and I have to just be supportive. And, I've learned that in, everyday situations with kids who are here. Um, I try to ask everybody one pointer for our topic. So, what I would like to ask you, what is one kind of pointer for being a mom of sons or daughters who are in jobs that put their lives in danger? It could be medic, it could be police, it- you know,
Mhm.
Army, Navy, anything. What is one pointer that you have learned could be helpful to other moms in your situation?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Um, Very good question. Because I have friends that, um, because just because my sons are in this situation doesn't mean that like my cousin's situation is it any different to her heart? Her daughter
Right,
is
right.
being human trafficked. So it's also a very dangerous situation. She's not like in a war zone or something, but it's still something that's affecting their lives, her mama's heart. Um,
Yeah,
so everybody has their own situation. And I found with all the people that I have talked with, first of all, we have to realize it's almost like the serenity prayer. You have to kind of realize that you really can't do anything right now. I mean, sometimes in some situations we think that we can help. Um, you know, try to encourage them to do a different lifestyle, or, change this, or be careful with this. They're still going to do what they're going to do. We can influence them, we can raise them right. And so we need to accept the fact that we've raised them this far. They're adults. Most of them, we're talking about adults in these situations,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to learn their lessons, and we can be there and assure them that we're there for them. But I have learned through my boys being in the military that they will tell me that knowing that I'm here for them is enough, that they don't want me to try to interfere. Um, there's nothing really I can interfere with right now, but in their other jobs, maybe like in school when they're going through maybe a hazing, or like my younger son was hazed in football. I try to interfere and try to protect him. And in some of those situations, he's like, I would like you just to stand back, mom, and just be there for me. And that's hard as a mom because you want to fix things. And when they're little, yes, we can do that. We can step in and say, hey, I don't want this kid bullying my kid,
Yeah.
or moving to a different school, or I ended up homeschooling. Um, so it's a lot of acceptance of fact that we've raised them. Um, I'm very proud of both my boys. They're good at what they do. And I've got to trust that them and their teams will keep each other safe.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing that goes along with the acceptance is finding yourself something to concentrate on so you don't drive yourself crazy worrying about them. Like I have my writing and my business, and that has kept me healthy from my lupus. It has kept me safe from my own worries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because as moms, we could really drive ourselves crazy and depressed and all of this stuff worrying about our kids because we born them, they were growing
Yeah.
inside our bodies, and now they're out, could be killed, could be injured, even if they're in a car accident driving down to work in the street, we worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we could drive ourselves crazy, and that doesn't help them any. So I've had to learn to accept and kind of direct my focus, and take care of myself so that I can be there for them when they do come to us and need us as adults. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard though,
Oh, yeah.
that letting go.
And I also appreciate the fact that you mentioned finding something to do for ourselves, because this is another thing. I've been a parent for almost 24 years, and the older I get, the more I hear that.
Mhm.
And I say the older I get because I was very, very young when became a parent. Through teenage years and things like that, people don't really tell you these kinds of things,
No,
because you're still a kid and whatever, uh, but it, I appreciate the fact that you brought that up because it is important. And I, even not super long ago, kind of like disagreed with that because, well, I'm a mom and this is what I do. My outside of parenting time is working, and that's my
right,
responsibility, kind of thing. But
right,
work is not your hobby. Work probably stresses you out more than it relaxes you most of the time, unless you're doing something you love.
right,
Um, and it's providing what you need. But it really is important because and I did an episode on Just the Who of Us on the wellness wheel, and one of the components, you know, involves it to an extent self-care. You can't provide for others until unless you're healthy. Uh some of the things that I found were kind of commonly acknowledged as self-care are simple things like taking a walk, driving a little bit longer, taking the longer route home to listen to
Mm-hmm.
a podcast or,
Yeah.
your favorite song or and so it doesn't have to be these elaborate things that cost you, oh, I can't afford it, and the realistic things
Right.
that sometimes keep us from our hobbies. Um, just having somebody to talk to, and one of the reasons that I love podcasting is because I get to talk to a lot of different people. Um, and it's also important to keep your hobby a hobby and keep it something that you enjoy doing because
Um,
you know it's you just have to keep it separate, and it is something that you deserve to do. When you are present and actively healthily raising humans, you're you're not taking anything away from your parenting by catering to yourself too. you know we are the leaders,
right.
and we can't successfully lead when we aren't healthy.
Right. Yeah. If we have nothing to give, it's hard to
Yeah,
take care of others.
yeah.
When we don't refill our own creative, healthy well. Yeah.
hmm It's one of the things that I hear, and I'm like, oh, that it's so cliche, but it should be, right? Because it is something that we need to hear. We need to hear
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a little more often. I know mothers who are in situations to where they either feel like they can't do something for themselves, and I've been there too, or they feel like their circumstances don't allow to take care of themselves. But
Right.
specifically when you are a parent of an adult child, whether the danger is close by, whether the danger is intentional or not intentional, but when the danger is something we kind of put ourselves in the career we choose, or whether it's just the area we live in and we don't choose that danger. um, it's important to have something that fuels you, something that helps you take care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
while you're taking care of adults in these stressful situations. Children too, but our focus is adults right now. So, but parenting in general, but parenting adults specifically who, when your stressors are higher, um, take care of yourself as well, because it's also going to reduce your stress. Acknowledging that we can't control everything is such a hard thing to do,
It
especially
is.
when you're
It
like
is.
me.
Especially when they're little, you pretty much do control
Right,
everything they're
right.
doing, sort of
hmm
to an extent. And then they grow up. And when they're little, I wish someone had told me more about self-care and doing all that because we didn't. And then by the time they're teenagers, you're kind of almost burnt
Yeah,
out. But then when they're adults, you've had all this time to that you've had to control everything, and then now you're have lost control,
yeah,
and that's hard because first couple of years when I was an empty nester, I kind of didn't do anything because I just kind of expected they're going to need me at any time and I need to be ready, right? I can't be busy doing stuff, and that was very detrimental to my mental health and to my marriage, um, and they could tell, that I was unhappy. So even though I'm busier now, they still know they can come to me and if they need anything. And my husband now has 5 kids. So between the two of us, we have 7. So
oh wow.
anytime any of them need us, even though they know we're busy, they know that we will find some way to help them or be there for them but in the meantime, in between those times, we just kind of have to like live our own lives and try not to worry about their situations too much. And yeah, try to do self-care. Yeah.
Yeah, all my kids still live at home. So, it's something that I've thought about, like, well, we don't want them to leave until they're ready. And so I haven't had the experience of having somebody leave yet and then being on their own and me not wanting to go to the house all the time and make sure everything is done there and
Right?
make sure you're eating and make sure your house is clean and make sure you're sleeping good and all these things.
Yeah.
So I think about it. Okay, when that time comes, you have to not be a helicopter. And
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
one, she's pretty independent now. I mean, she works, she does side jobs. Uh, I don't really have to do anything for her. When she works for my business, pay her. She's kind of the one who checks behind the other kids and things like that. And I
Mm.
don't really have to do much, and it's nice, but I won't lie, there have been times where I'm like, "Oh, I kinda miss, like, having to do things for her," but it's also nice to have not as much to do at the
Right.
same
Yeah.
time.
It's kind of a nice way to kind of ease into
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
once they're not in your daily life because it's different. When they're in your daily life, you see them, and then when they move
yeah.
into their own place, you might not see them for a week or two, or it
Right.
depends on how far they move away, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I wanna shift a little bit, um, to be able to chop this up into 2, if you're okay with that. I
Sure.
wanna talk a little bit about being a long distance grandparent. So you have 2 sons who are in the Navy and you have 3 grandchildren, correct?
Yes.
And because you travel, you're on the road and the sons are in the Navy, I imagine you guys don't live in the same area. I know you don't
Mm.
get to see the sons a ton. And so I imagine that would be the same for the grandkids. That's about all the time we have for today. Let us know where we can find you if you have social medias or a website or anything that you would like people to find you at. You can let us know where we can find you.
Okay. Um, I'm most active on Instagram. My main author page is the at Heather Lee Dyer, Dyer. My That's my previous married name, but it's going to be my pen name now because I can't change all my books
Right.
with the last name.
Yeah.
So that's the best place to find me is on Instagram. I met you through Brains magazine, so I
Yeah.
should be having some articles through them as well. And I write on Medium, and all my books are on Amazon under Heather Lee Dyer.
Okay, perfect.
Say what I want you to say. I know, Mom. I know, Mom. Okay, that was good. Thank you.
Visit www.philology.net to check out our workbooks, autobiography, receive our weekly wrap ins, monthly blog emails, and much more.